future.
I call Tim McIndoe.
I move that the question be now put.
I'll call Carol Beaumont.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It's a great pleasure to rise to speak again on the Royal Society of New Zealand Amendment Bill, my first time this evening, and speaking on Clause 7, the functions of this Royal Society of New Zealand Amendment Bill. Now, clearly the functions is almost the how-to. So how is the Royal Society going to advance and promote, and the obvious change has been, instead of just science and technology, now the inclusion of the humanities. And those functions are actually quite broad-ranging if you look at them as outlined in Clause 7, and all the way through, of course, we now have the addition of the humanities, which many of my colleagues have, I think, quite eloquently explained why that is so important that we include the humanities. So throughout these functions, A to F, we now have the humanities included. And of course, part of those functions are, the top one is, I think correctly, to foster in the New Zealand community a culture that supports science, technology and the humanities. And I think that's very important for a whole range of reasons. The pursuit of knowledge, both for the, if you like, the end goal of acquiring that knowledge and then using it, but also the processes by which you acquire knowledge is very, very important. It is, in some ways, what goes to the heart of us being human, the way that we learn and the way that we use what we learn. And so in this we look at how they will promote or foster in New Zealand community a culture that supports science, technology and the humanities, and that's seen by promoting public awareness and through education itself, the advancement of education. And actually it's quite interesting when you look at A2, because you see that actually that talks about the advancement of science and technology education as opposed to science, humanities and technology education, and I wonder if that's deliberate or not, and perhaps my colleague Grant Robertson, the fine member sponsoring this bill, can explain to me why the humanities is left out of that particular subclause. And of course, importantly in the functions there is the issue of excellence, and I think that excellence and promoting excellence in everything we do, including in the science, technology and humanities, is important. It goes through and looks at other things, providing infrastructure and support for professional needs of those scholars that are part of the Royal Society, and importantly establishing a code of professional standards and ethics. Interested, of course, in E, which says to provide expert advice on important public issues to the government and the community. And I'm unclear myself as to how frequently the Royal Society would fulfil that role, and perhaps my colleague again, Grant Robertson, might want to stand and explain to me, as probably our foremost expert, in fact, on the Royal Society, how frequently they do provide expert advice on important public issues to the government and the community. Certainly that will be strengthened by the addition of the humanities. F is very interesting because in F the Royal Society and the Council of the Royal Society is given the opportunity to do all other lawful things, and I was putting my mind to what that might look like and whether that would change with the addition of the humanities in those functions. Would all other lawful things look somewhat differently? And I was wondering about whether that could include specifically the promotion of what is called by some integrative education, because a number of speakers tonight, I think, have stood up and made a very compelling case that actually the distinctions are somewhat arbitrary between science, the humanities and technology, and that there are many subject areas where in fact all three components are at play at once. And there is an important, I think, role for the promotion of integrative education and understanding, and Michael Roth, the President of the Wesleyan University in Connecticut, is a strong advocate for this integrative education that mixes science and the arts, and he uses the example of neuroscience and behaviour as one of their fastest growing majors, which does link those things. he talked about it as a kind of intellectual cross-training, which I thought was a very striking description, really. So I think that with the addition of the humanities, it may be that these functions should actually specifically include a point of promoting integrative education. And again, perhaps my colleague Grant Robertson might be able to explain whether or not there was any consideration given by the Royal Society or indeed the Select Committee to this idea.
I call the